Welcome to Hockey Nights in Vegas, episode 103. My name is Eddie Rivkin. I'm joined, as always, by Chris Chapman from Fox Sports Vegas and the Vegas Golden Knights pre- and post-game show. This episode, like all others, is brought to you by the Las Vegas Advisor at lasvegasadvisor.com, by my good friend Dr. John Pierce at agelessforever.net, and by the Marathon Law Group at marathonlawgroup.com, the people who are responsible for Chapman being able to be here for this episode at the Origin Podcast Studios right off the airport here in Las Vegas. Chap, I'm wearing red today. Can you notice I'm wearing bright red today?
Yeah, I also noticed it says Detroit on your sweatshirt.
Right. It actually says Detroit versus everybody because I'm in a rebellious mood, but I'm really wearing red because the first topic today is the last two games of the road trip.
Seeing red.
Seeing red.
How about that?
How about that? I did our friend Brian Feldman's show on Sunday morning.
Yes.
The Out of Line.
Another Detroit guy.
Another Detroit guy. And he asked about the Buffalo game. It was before the Red Wing game.
Yes.
And I went so far that I was nervous I might have gone too far when I said that they embarrassed themselves and they embarrassed the crest on their jersey.
I think that was actually a fair statement.
If you watch the game, it was certainly a fair statement.
And listening to Bruce after the game, it was probably a fair statement.
I mean, he was like dour. I thought he was going to be angry. I mean, he gave Gary Lawless the business pretty good.
Yeah.
Right?
He did.
But what in the fucking fuckery? What was that?
Well, I don't know. And I don't think they know. But what I do know is that it's done and they moved on. And I mean, as well as you could. And listen, they didn't play bad against Detroit.
No.
They just ran out of gas. Yeah. And
listen, back-to-back matinees.
It was
really an unusual thing.
And that was, if you listened to the podcast last week, that was my reasoning that I said they were going to get 6 points on the road trip. They got, 4?
Yeah, I said 7. But I got cheaped.
Well,
we both got cheaped.
We both did because they played really good against Pittsburgh and they should have won that game.
Yes.
And I'm not one of those woulda, coulda, shoulda assholes.
No.
But the reality is, if Tristan Jarry is the Tristan Jarry we'd seen for the last 2 years, the Golden Knights put 6 fucking goals on the board.
All day.
The problem was Tristan Jarry was Martin Brodeur. He was Patrick Waugh. Hell, he was Connor Hellebuck.
Right.
And the Golden Knights could not beat him. Now, thanks to a late goal by Noah Hannafin, they're able to get the point out of it, despite the fact that they played well enough to get 2.
Certainly.
But overtime in that one, and listen, I have been a defender of Ilya Samsonov all season. I defended him last week. I defended him 2 weeks ago. Inexcusable for him to not play through the whistle on that goal. And he knows it. I think the coaching staff probably talked to him and said, listen, man, this ain't going to happen again. Because if it does, we'll make a phone call to fucking Henderson and we'll bring up the Swedish kid or we'll bring up Akira Schmid and you can watch from the bus. Because to me, you're a professional. And listen, I like the guy. I enjoy my conversations with him.
He's funny.
He's a fun guy, and he's a guy that I root for. Well, I root for all of them, but I think more so him because I feel like he's got a really good personality. He's a fun guy. Inexcusable. And I don't care what the reasoning is. If you thought that there were too many men on the ice, if you didn't think Erik Karlsson was going to shoot it from there, Karlsson is a good enough player.
Well, he's not known as a defensive defenseman.
And listen, Erik Karlsson is a Hall of Fame player. Very close. He's close.
Fringe.
I think he'll get in.
Fringe. Okay, yeah, he probably will.
He's got a Norris. I think he'll get in. But he knew that Samsonov probably wasn't playing that shot.
Yeah.
Which is probably why he shot it from fucking Philadelphia.
Right.
And they end up losing that game in overtime. You know what? I heard someone call into the post-game show bitching about the rules in overtime, how, Listen.
It's not worth the time on our podcast to discuss.
Win the fucking face-off in overtime.
Right.
Because my thing, they played great outside of the first 10 minutes in Columbus, demolished the Blue Jackets.
Smashed them.
Which is what they should do.
Absolutely.
Right? Columbus came here, won 2-1. You go there.
You smashed them.
And
Bruce, what did Bruce say?
I don't want to hear the cannon.
That fucking cannon
and
or
he
whatever.
Didn't. He didn't. Yeah.
Not a once.
And then you get to the Buffalo game, and you know, I feel like sometimes I get pissed off at the fans because they're irrational a lot of times.
Yeah.
And the amount of shit, and listen, I work for Fox Sports Las Vegas. I'm in studio. I get to read the archived text messages.
Oh, really?
And some of the text messages I saw criticizing Tomas Hertl following that game, like, are we fucking serious? Like, you got a point against the LA Kings, or sorry, you got to throw your hats on the ice and nearly got a point against the LA Kings a week and a half ago because of his 3 goals. And now you're bitching about him being unselfish. Listen, he knows better. Jack Eichel was getting booed out of the building. And Hertl wanted to get him another goal.
He wanted to shove it straight up their ass. That's all.
And I don't have an issue with that because you know what? At the end of the day, they were up 2-0 in that game.
I have more of an issue with Petrangelo's turnover.
That was, yes, exactly.
All right. They have made a series of mistakes in recent games that have cost them points.
Yes.
Right? Uncharacteristic mistakes, we would say. That's very fair to say.
I think in a case like Petrangelo, a guy who handles the puck as much as he does.
Right. But this team has been guilty, not just recently.
All season.
This season
All
and
season.
last season
They get
and the
sloppy.
season before. It's not even they get sloppy. And Bruce has alluded to it a couple of times, more than a couple of times. We try to score the pretty goals.
Yes.
He's tried to probably pounded his fucking fist on the podium, shoot the puck. We did an episode 20 or 30 episodes ago that was called Shoot the Fucking Puck.
Yeah.
You sit next to me in the press box. I yell it at least once a game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
They spend more time passing the puck out of the slot off to the wings for a less high danger opportunity.
What do you think is it unselfishness?
I think
with
Hertl,
it was unselfish.
100%. And you know what? I ain't even really mad.
No, I'm not mad at all.
Listen, it ended up costing them a point.
Right.
But you know what? Hertl's an unselfish guy. They're all unselfish guys.
Yes.
That's the thing. But, and you have to say it, they have to be more selfish. They have to just stick it in the fucking net, take the 2 points, and move on. My concern now is there's 15 games to go in the season.
Yes.
And and we talk about this every year. It's one of those, is this going to be when we look back at the year, if they don't win the division, are we going to look back at the point they gave away in Pittsburgh? Are we going to look at the point that they gave away in Buffalo? There's been 2 or 3 of those games where they shit the bed.
Well,
unexpected, and you can never expect to win. It's the NHL. They're all professionals. But games you would think they are significantly better talent-wise, that they should win the game if they play their game.
Well, and that's part of the problem, right? It's the details.
Right.
Like, unknown fact about me, I like to make cookies.
Okay.
I bake cookies. If I don't pay attention to that recipe, like the last batch of cookies I made were cardamom chocolate chip cookies. They come out really good. But if you add too much cardamom, it's like fucking ginger.
Ugh.
So
gross.
If it says a quarter of a teaspoon or a teaspoon, but I accidentally add a tablespoon, well, guess what? Those cookies are going to taste like shit. It's in the details. And we have a friend in the press box who I don't know if he still has this opinion, but he had the opinion that face-offs don't matter. Eddie, the Golden Knights lost 2 games because they lost the 2 most important faceoffs of the game. They win the faceoff in Pittsburgh. Now, there's no guarantee that they score a goal.
But
you at least put yourself in position to win. They lost that faceoff. They never touched the puck in over a minute of game.
And that was that.
And they fucking lost. They lost the faceoff with 14 seconds to go in the Sabres zone.
Yep.
And they give up the goal to Dahlin. And they go to overtime and they lose because Alex Tuck ends up. You score the first goal in the shootout, and then you don't score again. Buffalo misses the first, and then they score the next 2, and old friend Alex Tuck.
And it's funny because we were actually texting each other, and I text you, this is going to come back and bite him in the ass.
You knew it.
I just, you know what? It was just one of those things, and I just said they deserve to lose.
Yes. And you know what?
And I was angry, and I probably, that wasn't the right word, but I was just pissed.
Yeah.
But
it's understandable.
It's one of those, this is karma coming to bite you in the ass.
Well, and you are a guy who played the game. You played at a high level. You know, you understand the game as well as anyone in press row. You fucking knew. Why? Because you understand the game. You played the game, and you texted me. I could go back and find it and read it and tell the people watching
instantly.
Yes.
Like, this is it.
As soon as they missed that shot or turned it over,
done.
You said it. And you know, the thing is, that game against Buffalo, and it's the last thing I'm going to say about it because
we got to move on.
We got to move on. But that's one of those games where had they gotten 2 points in that game, I think Bruce would have been exactly the same in that press conference. He would have said, I'm happy we got 2 points.
But they disrespected the game.
Yes.
To me, yes, they disrespected the game. It's the first time I can tell you conclusively in all the years, and I've watched every single, even if I haven't been at the game.
8 years.
I've watched every single Golden Knights game, even if it was the day after on tape or whatever. It's the first time that they disrespected the crest on the front of their jerseys.
Yeah,
it was an absolute, and listen, I might get in trouble, but you know what? They embarrassed themselves. And that's, you know, I don't know how minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, Mr. Foley is about stuff like that. But I know that a military man, an officer, right? Pride is, you know, that uniform.
Yeah.
That's an everything burger. That's the opposite of a nothing burger. That's an everything burger.
And he probably had multiple televisions on in wherever he was watching, because I believe that Bournemouth was playing, if not at the same time, pretty close to the same time. And they're having a really good season, by the way. But I'm guessing he was probably watching both. And he could not have been happy with what he saw. I get to listen to Kelly McCrimmon every Monday because he comes on the VGK Insider Show, and I get to listen to what he says. He wasn't on this past week because of the GM meetings.
Right.
But he was asked about, I believe it was the LA game.
The second LA game.
The second LA game. And he, you know, it was, you scored 5 goals, whatever. He was like, I wasn't happy about that. I would imagine he was probably pretty pissed off. And you and I both know from experience that George McPhee might be one of the most emotional people to watch. I would love to be able to sit and watch a game with George McPhee.
Just one time, G-Money, let us sit. We promise we won't report anything he says.
We won't even talk to him.
We won't even talk. Just one. G-Money, if you, I'm looking right into the camera. I'm breaking the fourth wall. I know that you won't let us do this, but could you just mic him up for one game?
Yes.
Just pretty please, because folks, fans of this podcast, it would be the best 2 hours of listening pleasure, 2+ hours, that you would ever have. And you just have to trust us, because Chris and I have heard some stuff and we're not going to share it, but we confidently can say that it would be the best audio you've ever heard when it comes to a hockey game.
I was told that when they won the cup, George McPhee was so dialed in to that game and so nervous that even when it was apparent, like midway through the second period, that they were just going to fucking roll right over the Panthers and this thing was over, he would not crack a smile.
Oh, no.
And it wasn't until I think the hat trick goal for Mark Stone that he finally started high-fiving people and was like, oh my God, this is going to happen. Like, I know how, and listen, you and I are sports fans. I get that way with Liverpool. I mean, they fucking shit themselves on Sunday. I was yelling and screaming at the same exact time the Golden Knights are losing to the Red Wings. So, like, you know, we're all fans.
Yes.
Some of us are just a bit more rational than others. So when you're shitting on Tomas Hertl,
just
for
shit on yourself.
One mistake that this guy has made in a year with this franchise, and I don't even think it was a mistake. I think it was just a guy in the moment.
He was just being unselfish and trying to stick the needle in the Buffalo fans.
Yes. That's all it was.
That's it.
But for people to shit on him, like, get a fucking clue.
All right, that's it. We're done with this topic. I don't have to wear red anymore, but I'm not changing in the middle of the episode.
I don't want to see what's underneath.
No.
Listen, I want to ask you something.
Wait, hold on. We have to get a word in from Dr. John Pierce at Ageless Forever. And once we're back from that, we're going to talk about a couple other interesting things. So we'll be right back in just a minute. So if there's a little bit too much whip in the shaft of your hockey stick, and you want to be able to hit the back of the net, here's your answer, but I'm not going to tell you anything about it because I'm going to let my good friend Dr. Pierce tell you exactly what this bad boy is, and prepare to be amazed.
This is the Phoenix Pro. This is a home unit to deliver extracorporeal, I call it sound wave therapy. The technical term is shock wave therapy.
Here's where we get to the fun stuff, kids.
Okay? And they applied it to their genitalia, and they found that, yes, indeed, it improves blood flow. When we talk about, male genitalia, what is an erection? It is a blood flow issue. So if you're having issues, and you've gone to see your doctor, you've had your testosterone balanced, and you're doing those things, and it's working great. If you're finding that you're using a medication like Viagra, Cialis, something like that, and you're finding less and less effect, that means that the blood flow isn't as good. Something like this can help to mitigate that issue.
So let me break this down for you in layman's terms. If your junk is more like a pool noodle than a pool cue, it's going to make your junk hard. Dr. John Pierce, Ageless Forever, www.agelessforever.net. Don't be shy. Send a message. The first consultation is free. You'll meet with Dr. Pierce personally. You'll have the ability to share whatever it is you want to share. This bad boy works. So, something for you to think about. www.agelessforever.net. Send a message, take advantage of the free consultation, and let's get you to be the best you can be. Okay, we're back. You have a question.
Yes. All right. So, Golden Knights currently lead the Pacific. They have a 2-point lead on the Edmonton Oilers, but they do have a game in hand.
Okay.
LA has a game in hand on Vegas, 2 in hand on the Oilers.
Okay.
They currently sit 5 points behind the Golden Knights. So even if they win those 2 games in hand, they're not there. They're still a point behind. It looks like, based on the way that the standings are right now in the NHL, they are not going to catch Winnipeg. Golden Knights are not going to catch the Jets. The Jets have 98 points.
No.
That ship has sailed.
Okay.
Winning the Pacific, though, gives you the first wild card. And it looks like that first wild card is going to be the Minnesota Wild.
I don't think so.
They have a 6-point lead on the Vancouver Canucks. I don't think they're going to catch Colorado. I don't think they're definitely not catching Dallas.
I don't think it's them. But go ahead. I think it's either going to be St. Louis or Calgary.
So no, St. Louis is 6 points behind Minnesota. I don't think they're going to catch.
I'll take St. Louis.
All right. So my question to you is, you win the Pacific, you get either in your mind,
You get wild card one. Okay.
Or Edmonton or LA catch you and you're playing one of Edmonton or LA in the first round. Who do you want the Golden Knights to play in the first round of the playoffs? Like, who is the best matchup for them?
Anybody not named LA.
Okay.
I mean, LA is the one I would not want to see.
Okay. And I've been on that train all season. That's the team I don't want to see.
I think that they're a better team than Edmonton, and I think they sort of have Edmonton's number. The results this year don't necessarily indicate it.
Well, they got a couple games left with the Oilers, yeah.
But if you throw out the result, and I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but if you just look at the play, right? If you just look at the 60-minute of the games, the Golden Knights are a better team. Even, Edmonton bolstered up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But
Trent Frederick's been hurt for them too.
But Stuart Skinner is not as good as either goalie that we have. He's their weakest link.
Yeah.
And Darnell Nurse is having a better season, but Bouchard is having a significantly worse season.
Yeah.
So
kind of cancel it out.
Yeah. So defensively,
Ekholm's a good defense. I like Ekholm.
He's a good defenseman, but 1 to 6, there's no comparison whatsoever. The Golden Knights have a significantly better decor.
No.
Up front, we don't have anything to match Draisaitl and
Connor.
What's that other guy's?
Yeah,
90s
Connor something.
Yeah, I think Land calls him McDick Boy or something like that.
Oh, boy.
But after you take those two out of the equation, when you go 3 through 12, there's no doubt the Golden Knights are deeper and more talented. So I have a healthy respect for Edmonton, but I think that the Golden Knights are a better team, and over the course of a 7-game series, yada, yada, yada.
A lot went right for the Oilers last year to get to the Stanley Cup final. Yeah. I think none more important than the Golden Knights
getting Dallas
in the first round.
For sure.
Because
100%.
I think if Dallas gets an opponent that they win in 4 or 5 games, I think they beat the Edmonton Oilers. I just think Dallas was spent after, emotionally and physically, I think they were spent after that 7-game series with the Golden Knights.
So aside from the LA Kings, I don't care. They smash Vancouver.
Yeah, I think they beat Vancouver.
They smash Calgary. Even if that kid Dustin Wolf stands on his head and spits wooden nickels,
they're a lot better than the Flames.
They're a lot better than the Flames.
Yeah,
they're a lot better than the Wild, right?
I think St. Louis would be an interesting matchup.
St. Louis, for some reason, if you look at the historical data against the Golden Knights,
the games are always entertaining.
They're nuts. They're 6-4.
Yeah,
they're 5-3, but there's 4 lead changes. But this team with Jim Montgomery behind the bench
is a much more disciplined.
Right, but now they're starting to score.
Yes.
And they're on a bit of a heater right now.
Yeah.
But I was listening to the 32 Thoughts podcast with Elliot Friedman, and he went over the Blues schedule for the next 10 games. And it's 3 against Nashville, 1. I mean, it's
like Cupcake City.
The only place there's more cupcakes is at Freed's. I mean,
like it's should get them on board.
I mean, he literally said, "Listen, if St. Louis doesn't make the playoffs, they have to look in the mirror because it's nobody's fault but their own."
I did not know who they play.
Oh, are you looking at it?
I'm gonna pull it up right now. Like I still have a hard time thinking that they'll catch the Wild.
Just look at that schedule and tell me you think the same thing.
Right.
We can wait for a second while you pull up the St. Louis Blues schedule.
All right, so they've got Vancouver tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Then let's see. So the Canucks on Thursday. I believe that's a home game for maybe not. Chicago.
Uh-huh.
Nashville.
Uh-huh.
Montreal, who's in the mix in the East.
Okay, that's one.
Not as good though.
Uh-huh.
Predators again.
Uh-huh.
Avalanche.
Okay.
Red Wings.
They got to have some tough games. They can't
Red
just
Wings,
have 12
Blues,
cupcakes.
Avalanche, Jets, Oilers, Kraken, Utah. So those last 2 games, if they need to win those last 2 games to get in,
they're winnable.
They're certainly winnable. The problem is there's a stretch right before that, 3 games, Colorado, Winnipeg, and Edmonton.
Well, they can't have all cupcakes.
No, but I don't think it's as easy as you made it out to be.
I like their chances. And again, just to make the question, to answer your question, anybody up at LA in the first round.
Okay.
And then from there, I mean, I'm more, as a hockey fan, this is the year that, to me, emphasizes that the playoffs should be 1 versus 8.
Yeah.
There's no reason whatsoever that Dallas and Colorado should be playing in the
I don't
first
like
round.
the crossover. I think if you want to give the division winners the 1 and 2 seed, that's fine with me. You know what? That's the way it should be. You should be rewarded for winning the division, but I don't like I understand, we want to build rivalries, but listen, if you're Dallas, you have a phenomenal team. You've done all the right moves, and it goes back to even before they acquired Mikko Rantanen, because Mikael Granlund, I like Mikael Granlund a lot, which is what they did right before the Four Nations face-off. But I'm with you. I don't like your reward for having 108 points is you get to play a team that had 106.
I mean, what if you are, Jim Nill's the GM in Dallas, and I don't know who the GM in Colorado is.
Joe Sakic.
Oh, he's the president. I don't think he's the GM.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you have 106 points in the regular season, 107 points. Your prize for having a fantastic regular season is you get Dallas, and you go out in the first round, right?
Chris McFarland is their general manager. Yeah.
Hi, Chris. It just isn't. I mean, listen, I hope they kill each other, and whoever's left doesn't have any gas left. But it just 1 to 8 makes more sense. You can make the division leaders 1 and 2, and then 3 through 8, it is what it is, and you sort it out.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be what it's going to be. They didn't discuss it at the GM meetings down in Florida.
They're not going to change it.
They're not going to change it because they have this convoluted thing that they think rivalries are that important.
See, and I know I'm not a believer in that, because you know what? Vegas and Dallas has turned into a rivalry,
and they only
play each other 3 times in the regular season,
right? And they only play their in divisions 4.
Yeah. So like, to me,
rivalry is built on skill and competitiveness,
and I think if
a little bit of geography.
Yeah, I mean, look, the stuff with the Sharks, like, that made sense. You played them in the playoffs 2 years in a row,
but it was hyper competitive because of the quality of the players.
Yes,
Chicago St. Louis is not a rivalry. St. Louis Nashville, even though it's geographically friendly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a dog rocket.
LA Anaheim, that's a rivalry. They're like 50 miles, not even.
Right.
They're like 30 miles apart.
Right. And Toronto, Montreal.
Makes sense.
Well, that stuff makes sense because it's got 100 years of history to it.
Boston, New York.
The Rangers,
yeah.
Right? Philly,
Rangers,
Pittsburgh.
Devils, yeah, it makes sense. Devils, Islander, or not the Devils, Islander. Rangers, Islanders is a...
Right. Those are turf wars.
Yes.
Right?
You're fighting more than just an in-division opponent.
Yeah.
You're fighting for eyes in the market.
Yeah.
You're fighting for front page headline in the Daily News.
Right.
So I get that, but I just wish, if they were going to play the Blues in the first round, I just wish David Perron was still part of the Blues, because he was a good member of the Golden Knights, but man, he's juiced up those games,
and he's juicing up the Ottawa Senators right
playing
now.
Well, they're playing really. I hope they make the playoffs.
Oh, they're in.
It's good. It's good for hockey.
Right. Brady playoff. Brady Kachuk.
And I think they would play Florida, right? Is that
they might be, but enough. We're not here to talk about this other bullshit teams in the league. We have other VGK news to talk about. In the week since we've been together, Adin Hill got himself
nice contract.
Got himself a nice little contract.
I like it.
6 years, $6.25 million, something like that. Sound right?
Yeah, I think it was 6.25 over 6 years.
Okay, so the fan base lost their shit.
They shouldn't have.
They went fucking cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, if you guys are old enough to remember those.
I remember those commercials.
Yeah. But I got to tell you something. I think it was a fair contract. And I think it was more than fair to the player. But I'll tell you why it was more than fair to the Vegas Golden Knights. There's this thing called cap certainty, right? We know, and we've talked about it in the previous episode, the cap's going to go up 8-9 million each year over the next 3 years.
It's going to be over $100 million in a couple years.
In 3 years, they're expecting that the cap's going to be $103, maybe $104 million.
Yeah.
Okay. 6.25% equals, and wait, let me do the quick math, about 6% of your total cap space for your starting goaltender. In addition to that, the Golden Knights have locked up, let's see, Shea Theodore, Braden McNabb, Brett Howden,
Noah Hannafin,
Keegan Colasar, right? So if you're that capology guy, that mystery guy that we know exists, but we couldn't pick him out of a lineup because they keep him well hidden, probably in a basement somewhere.
I have an idea. I see a couple guys walking around in the games. They hang out in the GM press box. I'm thinking it's possible, but I don't know what they look like. I'm just guessing.
So they are playing chess at a different level, right? They know what the cap's going to be next year after, 26, 27. They're locking up players right now. So they're going to know exactly how much dough, because they're going to have to extend this one guy. He's number 9, Jack something or other.
Yes.
Right? He's going to come due here in the next couple of years. He's actually eligible for a deal this July.
Yeah. So he's
going to be
as of July, he has 1 year remaining on his contract.
Right. And with the Rantanen deal at 8x12 and Draisaitl at 14, they have an idea what it's going to take,
what the market's going to look like
to re-sign Jack, because they ain't letting Jack go.
Mitch Marner will be a free agent.
Right. Marner.
That's another indicator.
Right. These are all sort of pegs in the board to see where Jack is going to come
now,
in.
Now, he should make more than Mitch Marner.
He should.
But the one thing Vegas has that Toronto doesn't have is
no taxes.
That's
the thing. That's the thing about the Rantanen deal
in Texas.
You know, they said, oh, Colorado would have given him 8x12.
Yeah, but how much would he have lost in income tax?
About 1.5. They said the equivalent is between 1.5 and 2 million.
So listen, I'm a pro player guy.
Me too.
Go get your fucking money.
Get the bag.
And you know what? If it means you go to a place where there's no state tax, then you know what? You do that. I have no issue with Mikko Rantanen wanting to play in a place, just like I had no issue with Evgeny Dadonov saying, I don't want to go to California and pay that income tax.
Well,
that's his right.
The one Ducks player took deferred money for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? He said, listen, I'll be out of the game. I won't be living in California. I ain't paying that tax.
Well, it's like Ohtani.
Right? Same
in baseball.
Same kind of thing.
And listen, in Japan, when he's getting paid, it's a hell of a lot different.
So I think I'm okay. I'm not at all. The only thing I'm concerned about with Adin Hill's contract
was his term,
because he's had
injury issues in the past.
Some injury issues.
Now, knock on wood, he's managed to stay.
Shh, don't say anything. Let's leave it alone.
When I saw the news, I was thrilled with the money.
Yeah,
for the reasons you laid out. Like what people need to understand is he's making $5 million this year. You gave the guy an extra $1.25 a year.
He was on a show me contract for 2 years, and he showed.
But he got a $1.25 raise, but the cap is going to go up like $8 million.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's absolute cap certainty.
So it's now the term. I was thinking between 4 or 5 years. I wasn't expecting 6, but you know what? If that's what it took to get the deal done, because you know what, Adin Hill, he's not the best goalie in the league, but he is a guy who's in that next tier.
Let me ask you this question. Is he worth half the money that Shesterkin's getting?
Yeah.
Is he worth $2 million, less than $2 million less than Swayman is getting?
Yes.
Or Allmark?
Yes.
I think we've sort of proved our.
Because Listen,
he's a lot more than half closer to Shesterkin
it's not like Linus Ullmark is lighting it up.
for $8 million.
And it's not like Jeremy Swayman. Now, we'll see next year when he's got the full camp and all that, you know. That was a shit show because he held out. He wanted to get paid.
He played his cards.
He's reaping the you know, whatever you want to say.
The financial benefit.
But his play has suffered.
Right.
Probably because now he's a good goalie. I feel confident that he'll bounce back. But I don't have any issue at all with the money.
No, and you know what? The only complaint that I have about Adin Hill is I wish that he would be more himself like he is off camera.
Yes.
Than when we get him post game.
Yeah,
that's stupid idiot nitpicking. So forget I ever said it. We need to get a word in from Marathon Law Group, and we'll be back to talk about a couple of lineup changes that are coming for the Golden Knights here starting tomorrow night.
I'm here with Joe Riccio from Marathon Law Group, and Joe, sometimes when couples go through divorce, one of the partners will deprive the other partner of visitation with their children. Obviously, this is never a good situation for anybody. So what steps can someone take to maybe deal with this type of issue if it arises?
Well, thanks, Chris. One of the most important things you can do is make sure that you have a court order. And in the state of Nevada, over the last several years, the Nevada legislature has moved towards involving both parents and finding it best for children to be involved, or parents be involved with both children equally, both on the legal custody and the physical custody side of things. So if you're being denied time or deprived time, whether it's in a court order or not, you definitely want to take measures to prove or at least show the court that you've been making those overt efforts and that the other side has been depriving you.
So maybe like keeping a calendar or something like that and marking when you have visitation with the child, maybe marking when you should, and if you don't get visitation on that particular day.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only could you keep a calendar log, but there's applications that the parties can get into without the court for free that allow them to communicate that the court can look at when that time is right. And then there's other mechanisms that you can engage in as well, such as text messaging and emailing and making sure you're keeping those records.
Okay, chap, guess who's in a gray jersey?
William Karlsson.
William Karlsson is back in practice yesterday. He was in the line rush with Riley Smith and
Nick Waugh.
Shea Theodore is in a red jersey.
So he's probably about
2 weeks.
Yep.
Right? The Vegas
to 10 days,
the Golden Knights have a very sort of exacting schedule.
Mm-hmm. We kind of have an idea.
We kind of have an idea. Today's the 19th, Tuesday the 19th. We can say comfortably he should be back probably by the beginning of April. And April 1st is against Edmonton, I believe.
Yes, so probably, let's see, today, my guess is either in Nashville, he may go on the road trip that they have coming up, Minnesota, Chicago, and Nashville. But if not, I would expect to see him back April 1st. That would be my guess. My guess is either against Nashville on March 29th or April 1st barring any setbacks, of course.
So to sort of put a ribbon on this, it explains the trade deadline lack of urgency, right? We hypothecated in 101, I think.
Yes.
What would Kelly do with 11.2?
Yeah.
Right? Well, obviously Kelly knew Karlsson was coming back, and he knew that even with a broken wrist, Shea Theodore was probably, you would safely say, ahead of schedule.
Yes.
So he knew he wasn't going to have anything. Clearly, he knew that he wasn't going to have anything for quite a while because for weeks before the deadline, he was telling like Danny Webster and telling Ryan, it's going to be a quiet year.
Yeah.
So he knew.
He knew they were coming back.
He knew they were coming back. So playoff readiness, right? A lot of teams are already in playoff modes, especially, the wild card races, the Calgarys, the Vancouvers. On the East, we have Montreal, Detroit, and a plethora of
Columbus,
other teams, right, within 2 or 3 points.
They're within striking distance, yeah.
But the VGK have the potential to, let's call it April 1st, just for the conversation's sake. After April 1st, they've got about 7 games left in the regular season, right? They finish up the regular season, a little quick roadie to
Western Canada.
Calgary and Vancouver. But they have the opportunity to finish the season potentially having the intact roster for maybe 6, 7, 8 games.
And that's important.
Well, based on the first fact that Dallas, the first game of the playoffs last year against Dallas, was the first time that lineup ever iced.
Yeah.
Right? So let's talk a little bit about William Karlsson specifically. Him coming back in the lineup, in my opinion, actually pushes all the pieces where Bruce wants the pieces to be pushed. I do disagree. I would rather have Waugh as 4C
With
Kolesar and Pearson,
Yes.
right?
I would as
and
well.
have Howden on the wing. But I understand having Howden in the middle because Howden's having a career year scoring, right? And if you think about that three-dimensional chess
and
stuff
his
again,
chemistry with Kolesar.
so I see it, but I don't want to say that Waugh's play on the wing is incredibly different than when he plays center.
I think
But
he's better as a center.
He's significantly, in my opinion, he's better in the pivot.
And the
that
funny thing is, I think the case could be made because we've seen experiments with William Karlsson on the wing.
Right.
And he's not nearly as effective as he is
Right.
centering a line.
So if I get to put on the coach's hat for a second, and I suspect that this is only because we've seen Bruce be much more quick to the line blender. I think this is the way he's going to. I think this is the way he's going to go with it. But I think the first shake in the blender
Will be Waugh
to
and
4,
Yeah.
Howden to the wing on 3. But how do you? I mean, Karlsson and Riley Smith,
Yeah, you're not breaking that up.
right? I mean, Bruce has talked for a couple of years. He likes things in pairs.
Mm-hmm.
Eichel Stone being the best example of that. I mean, their third line, even with Waugh or Howden, they're going to have to be addressed by other teams, right?
Yeah, well, of course. I mean with William Karlsson is not a 3C on most teams.
No. And he's a legitimate Selke candidate.
Yeah. So that gives Bruce an advantage when he's got to set his matchups and what he's going to do. Like that third line, I'm not expecting them to go out and score a ton of goals. But what I do expect is that line will shut down other top lines.
Yeah.
Because you have Riley Smith, one of the benefactors of his game is, he's got a little offensive upside, but he's a really good two-way forward. Nick Waugh, a little offensive upside, but his bread and butter is being a defensive forward. And then you got William Karlsson, who you just mentioned as a Selke candidate, but he's got the speed to move the puck through the neutral zone, and he can create and generate offense when he needs to. And Riley Smith is a guy who can be a benefactor to that. So I just used that word twice, and I probably shouldn't have. Benefactor. It's a weird. But the thing is, I still think at some point we see Waugh centering the fourth line, just because that there's consistency there.
And it's more of a shutdown line.
And the other aspect of Brett Howden's game is you can move him anywhere,
literally,
in the lineup, and he can play. He can perform. He can produce with anybody. Like, it's funny because he's very modest. Like when you listen to him speak,
he's super soft spoken.
But like he's got a little bark.
Yeah, he
got into a fight.
He got into a fight. He gave a guy a little bit of here's my smelly glove.
Well, and he delivered a monster hit on the kid from Buffalo.
Who still doesn't know where he is.
And
it was a clean hit.
It was perfectly legal.
Yep.
No problem. Obviously, no discipline. But like he was an assist away from the old Gordie Howe hat trick.
Yeah, and he would not have been the candidate.
Not. And the funny thing is, him and Keegan were in the box together, and he was on with us yesterday, and he said, yeah, Keegan started giving him shit like, hey, you better go out and get a Gordie Howe now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And he had a couple of chances, but they didn't.
He did.
But
so back to William Karlsson. He's the peg that puts everybody where they belong.
yes.
Right? He's that piece of the puzzle that allows Bruce to put together. I was going to say constitute. That's a horrible word.
Almost as bad as my benefactor.
William Karlsson in the lineup allows Bruce to put everybody exactly where he wants them and gives him the opportunity to make different moves should something not be going right. The other enormous, and you cannot stress this enough because it has been the bugaboo for the Golden Knights this year, is the penalty kill. Now you got Riley Smith and William Karlsson. Not only do you have the
You throw McNabb in the mix.
Jesus, what a stutter that was. Not only do you have the shorthanded potential, which they've shown
the
together.
Power kill.
Right, the power kill, but the intangible is less minutes for Eichel and Stone.
That's important.
I think the biggest benefactor obviously is Riley Smith and William Karlsson. You don't have to tell them fuck off.
So your top power penalty kill is Karlsson, Smith.
How could it not
McNabb and Pietrangelo?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Listen, Pietrangelo could play 25 minutes a night.
Right, but why not? But they can give Stone a couple, maybe
give him a breather,
even if it's a minute less, and Jack, even if it's a minute less.
That could be your second unit.
And Kolasar's got some time on the PK this year. Howden's got time on the PK this year.
You bring Karlsson back and eventually Theodore.
Well, that's what I mean. So the great benefits are the penalty kill might just finally round into shape because they've struggled with it at times.
It's been
a bugaboo, right? But when you roll out Karlsson and Smith and McNabb and whoever else, I mean, you put Kate. You don't have to break up the D pair. Korczak can PK, right?
Give Pietrangelo a breather.
Give Pietrangelo, and folks, we're only talking about maybe a minute, right?
It's a big deal,
but a minute in NHL minutes. Right.
Well, and more specifically, a minute when you're killing a penalty.
That's
what I mean. A lot of work.
So the Golden Knights are rounding into roster shape, right? Still a couple of weeks away, probably on Riley Smith. But if the Golden Knights,
Shea Theodore,
Shea Theodore. Sorry about that. If the Golden Knights have 7 or 8 games, knock on marble that. Without injury. It's not really marble, but
it's wood. The nice glossy finish.
Do you like this? Do you like this team going forward?
Well, it's interesting because I recently heard Pete DeBoer, and he was talking about the continuity with Mikko Rantanen coming in and how there really wasn't a whole lot of adjusting in his game because they have a lot of Finnish players. And he was obviously part of Team Finland in the Four Nations face-off. And so he got to familiarize himself with players on the Stars. I mean, I don't know how much he knew prior to the trade deadline, but, you know those guys. So when you come into the new team, they're telling you where to live. They're telling you which way do you want to go to work. It makes things a whole lot easier. Plus, those guys because you've played with them a little bit.
And on the ice, they all talk the same language.
Right. And so
not English.
The chemistry takes a little less time to build. Bringing Riley Smith back into the mix, there's no learning curve. Jack knows him. Pietrangelo knows him. Shea's known him for 8 years. I don't think anyone in Pittsburgh knew him. But who gives a fuck? Everyone here knows him. And everyone here likes him, and everyone here understands what a valuable contributor he was to that Stanley Cup team. The guy's got the winning goal in the Stanley Cup.
Included in that is also, it's kind of a feel-good moment.
It is. And you could always go home again.
And we don't talk a lot about feel-good moments when it comes to organizational stuff and player personnel decisions.
This team is
cutthroat. Viciously cutthroat.
Winning is the most important.
So it was kind of a nice feel good moment. I'm sure he must have been over the fucking moon.
Oh, I'm sure his wife, because she's knows all the other wives,
and the renter just moved out of his house.
Yeah, moved right back in.
I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better fit play.
Well, it makes it easy, Like I don't know if he's got a dog, but he's got 2 kids now.
Right.
When
more maintenance.
Yeah. So when you move a family, and it's not like he was coming from Salt Lake or from Colorado. I mean, he was coming from the East Coast. He was in New York.
Right.
So that's a big move. And it's a whole lot easier. You know what? His wife and kids, they get on the plane, they come, they probably have their furniture shipped. Maybe the house is already furnished. I don't know. But all of that is a whole lot easier when you're going someplace that you're really familiar with. So that's the move that I think makes everything you're saying about William Karlsson. It allows Bruce to really manipulate his lineups in a way that's advantageous for this team going forward, because it's not like he's bringing in Anthony Mantha, who he doesn't know, right? He's bringing in a guy that helped him win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, an absolute known quantity.
So I think from that aspect, it's easier, and obviously from Riley's aspect, it's like if you're Riley Smith and you get traded from New York to Edmonton, you don't know any of those fucking guys. You've never played with any. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 of them, but like the continuity's not there. He's not hey, guess what? You've been traded to the Wild. I know John Merrill and Marc-Andre Fleury.
This was sneakily might be the deal of the deadline day, right? Because if they coalesce, if they get it together, right? I mean, we talked about the arms race in the West last episode, but you know what? One of them 2 teams ain't going to make it out of the first round.
Well, and here's the other thing.
And the other one who wins that series
is going to go through
probably you would suspect, unless Connor Hellebuck shits the bed, they're going to have to beat Winnipeg in the second round.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So those 3 teams, hey, kill them all, let God sort them out.
Yeah,
right?
I think sounds like a Metallica song.
Let them all punch themselves silly.
Yeah.
And, hopefully the Kings and the Oilers, I would want Edmonton to win that series. Right?
Yeah.
Because the Edmonton-Vegas rivalry is better.
And I think Vegas has a better chance of beating the Oilers than they do the LA Kings.
I agree. So in our dreamland, in our fantasy hockey thing, and I don't play that shit, I see a pathway now.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think it starts with winning the division.
It has to start with winning the division.
Because going through the wild card round, listen, no disrespect to Vancouver or St. Louis,
but it's treacherous.
Or Minnesota, but it's just a better matchup for Vegas to play one of those teams.
It's treacherous.
They had a great series against the Wild, the 56-game season.
Yeah.
That first round series with Minnesota was phenomenal. It was great, but that's not the same Minnesota Wild team.
No.
And I think as good of a job as they've done this season, I didn't think they were going to be a playoff team at the beginning of the year. I just thought that the division was tough, and I thought that maybe St. Louis would have been better, and St. Louis is certainly right there. But listen, the Wild are solidly in the playoff. They're going to make the playoffs. The question is, who are they going to play? And if you're Vegas, you want them to play you.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. So before we go,
I got one more for you.
Okay.
Because I know we got to. So the league announced, I think it was yesterday, that they're going to do the game in Sweden, Pittsburgh and Nashville. I mean, now,
Garbage.
They don't send West Coast teams to Europe, right? Like the Kings don't. But the Kings went to Australia a couple of years ago in the preseason.
Right.
I asked Bill Foley once about the team maybe playing in one of these global series, and this will tell you how smart Bill Foley is. He knew ahead. This was pre-COVID. And he made a comment about, well, you don't know what's going on in that, over, because I asked him specifically about China. He said, well, you got to be careful when you send your teams over there, and I don't know if he knew ahead of, it was just, he wasn't interested in the team going over there.
He's a big thinker.
He wants the team staying here and playing in Vegas, right? He doesn't want to give up a home game, whatever. But you're not Bill Foley.
Nope.
You are Eddie Rivkin, fan of the game.
Yep.
Any interest or any appetite in the Golden Knights being part of one of these global series games?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
I would love it.
Nope, because it's an enormous disruptor to the beginning of your season, going over there for a week.
Right.
The 6 or 7 or 8 for Europe, it would be at least 8.
Yeah. So I think Stockholm, is 8 hours.
Right. London is 8 hours.
So
right?
Stockholm,
Paris,
I think might be one more.
So the enormous early stress on the body, the messed up, the fact that they lose so many days in travel and rest, that it compacts the schedule that's already going to be compacted next year for the Olympics. We'll use as an example.
Right. Oh, man.
Right.
Oof.
So
for a guy like Sid, he's taking 2 trips to Europe in the middle of the season.
So if you're 35-year-old Alex Pietrangelo, and they want you to go there for the regular season and come back, go to Milan for the Olympics and come back, a long playoff run into June? No, fuck no. Now, if they wanted to go to Sydney for an exhibition game, I would go. 100% I would go, because I got Australia stories from my time in the Navy.
I got to talk to
but regular season, no, it's too big of a disruptor. And there's nowhere in the world that they would put a game that it would even out the lack of time zone difference at the East Coast teams.
Yeah.
Now, if they were going to do regular season games and they were trying to grow the game, I would rather them not have a shitbox Pittsburgh-Nashville game.
Yeah.
But if I was a really good team, if I was, well, this year Washington, but if I was Tampa or Florida or, any of the Toronto, for example, I wouldn't want to disrupt, because you've been around it now for a while. They live a super structured life.
Yes, everything,
minute, meal,
nap
arrival,
time.
nap time, all of that stuff is just, it runs.
They're creatures of habit.
Right. And you send them over there, they play 2 games, maybe 3 games, something like that. They got to come all the way back. As a fan of the Golden Knights, I don't see the upside being anywhere worth the downside potential. Just the travel itself, the fact that you have an extra 7 days while other teams are getting games in.
Yeah.
Because the other teams are already in their Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or the 3 game a week.
Really
groove,
throws you off. Yeah.
Right. And it's probably wonderful to play in the O2 in Sweden or in Czechia or in Germany.
Now, I've been to a game at the Hovet, which is like the old 1950s. It was fucking cool.
But in the context of we're here to win the cup, I think it's significantly more detrimental than the positive value that it could have for the team.
We'll see this year, right? The Panthers played in Finland, I think.
Right.
And it took them a little bit of time to adjust.
Well, they say it takes 1 day for every hour of time change.
Yeah, well, listen, my wife's Japanese. I know from going over there,
right?
It kicks my fucking ass.
So
going over there is worse than coming back.
Yeah. It's all it
I'm falling asleep at 2:00 in the afternoon in the middle of a restaurant.
I'll tell you a very quick story. I was in Beijing before the season where they opened up at home against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
and I flew
Was that year 2?
year it was 19, I think.
So yeah, year 2.
Right.
Holy
I was
shit.
in Beijing working, and I specifically set up my trip so that I would get home the morning of the Philadelphia game, right? Because I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to go to the opening night of the VGK. I'm all jazzed, this, that, and the other thing. I got in about 7:30 in the morning.
You're done.
I didn't wake up for a day and a half.
Yeah, you're toast.
I woke up, felt like $1 million. Oh, me, strong man, go hockey game.
Yeah.
Except it was a day and a half ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, travel's a hard no for me. Let's wrap up with
Golden giveaway.
well, we don't really have to talk about the golden giveaway because it's going to happen in
A few hours.
5 hours and 53 minutes. I can tell you that we have over 100 entries though.
Well, that's awesome.
And I'm gonna put all the names in a hat, and I'm gonna make a little recording and put it up there, and we're gonna draw a winner, and that winner is going to get the game tickets and the free parking and the free food and a tour of the press box. We're gonna get to take them upstairs and show them our incredible treat offerings that they feed us.
Maybe give them some gummy bears.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, they can have some sour worms if
they're even out.
If they're even out. But a little quick 3-game homestand. We've already mailed it in. We give up. We surrender. Boston Bruins are tomorrow night.
Yep.
The revenge match against the Red Wing, the Golden Giveaway game, is Saturday night. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are in the throes of a wild Atlantic Division race.
Yeah.
The Golden Knights better win 2 out of these 3 games.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 4 points. Although I think 5 is a real possibility. I think 4 is probably what you're aiming for before you hit the road again for your last real road trip.
Real
season.
road trip.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting they've had a couple of days at home. They've had a day off.
And
They've
that's
had some
good.
practices.
Right? Because we've heard them in the past say, oh, when you come from the East Coast and you've had
They got the
4 days.
They got the extra day this time.
Yeah.
And but more than that, I am expecting a reset between their ears. Because those last 2 games on that road trip were shitballs.
And listen, there might not be a better team to get that reset against than Bruce Cassidy's old team.
Right. I mean,
I know they're not the same.
No, but
They're still a pain in the ass.
But they've basically surrendered, right? They sold off Marchand. They sold off Charlie
which pisses
Coyle.
me off because I like Marchand.
I know you do.
And I'm bummed that I don't get to see him play unless they play the Panthers in the Stanley Cup final.
Well, I can just tell you as the voice of experience on the Hockey Nights in Vegas podcast, if that happens, you'll probably want to go to Florida for the Stanley Cup finals because hanging out at the Elbow Room in Fort Lauderdale, it's a fucking blast.
Ooh.
So I'll just say that. And with that, we'll wrap up episode 103 of Hockey Nights in Vegas. Thanks, as always, to our sponsors, the Las Vegas Advisor at lasvegasadvisor.com, Dr. John Pierce at agelessforever.net, and the Marathon Law Group, Joe Riccio and Boris at marathonlawgroup.com. Thanks to all of you, the subscribers. You aren't going to believe this, Chris, but we are 646 subscribers away from getting monetized and getting 17 cents from YouTube. So, folks, if you haven't subscribed yet, we only need 646 more of you to subscribe so Chapman and I can pay for this fine studio. But seriously, thanks for all the comments. Thanks for likes and the support. We really do appreciate it. The Golden Giveaway winner is going to have a blast with us this Saturday night at the Fortress versus the mighty Detroit Red Wings. We'll be back with you early next week, and we're setting up for another couple of surprises, maybe a player, maybe a member of the broadcast team, who knows? But before the Stanley Cup playoffs, Chris and I have a couple of surprises for you. We've talked enough for 2 episodes today, so we're going to be out of here and say goodbye, and we'll see you next week. We're out of here.